did you find out that the victim was leaving town the following day?
I can't remember that good.
Was it from a blog?
Objection, Your Honor. Leading.
It's not leading, Your Honor. Was it from a blog?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what blog was that?
The blonde was Wendi.
No.
Do you want the culpable parties held accountable for murdering the father of your children?
Absolutely. I'm grateful they're already in jail.
But not if it's your family.
It's not my family.
I mean, somebody hired them, right?
Not necessarily.
Somebody paid them.
I learned something this morning.
Yeah, me too. You didn't want them held accountable if it was your family members. Didn't you tell law enforcement that?
That's not what I told law enforcement.
What did you tell law enforcement?
I told them that the person who did this should be held responsible and that I had nothing to do with it.
Page 122, lines 7 through 12. If somebody tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The investigator says regardless of who it is, and your answer is, I mean, it would be different if I thought it were my brother.
But I don't think it was my family, is what I said.
Different now, isn't it?
No, it's not different. That's exactly
Different
what I
today,
said
isn't
right
it?
here. No, that's not
No
right.
further questions.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, how is everybody doing? Today I'm going to talk about one of the most highly contested opinions. I guess I have an opinion on it in the Dan Markel case, which is, what did Craig Isom know? When did he know it? Was he fooled by Wendi? Was he not fooled by Wendi? And as you know, I have been going back to the beginning, or close to the beginning, as close to the beginning as an outsider like myself can go, which is Sigfredo and Katie's trial. And looking at Craig Isom's testimony. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So right from the beginning, he says within minutes, of Wendi exiting. Of course, she had a very long interview, police interview. He pointed right to the Adelson family. Now, he doesn't mention Wendi specifically, but he's pulling up Wendi and Dan's divorce records. Now, I would think, and as I've explained before, as a seasoned detective, he's now retired, Craig Isom, that his chances of him saying that Wendi would not be involved in this, that her family would do this for her as a gift, as someone who's lived on planet Earth, for him to have that opinion, I think it would be very low odds. Because as I've explained before, if you're going to give something like that as a gift or do something like that, murder someone for someone in your family, you have to be prepared for it to go wrong. I mean, we talk about not giving pets as gifts because it might be not the right pet. It might not be a good match. They might not really want the pet, even though if they've even, this person, the subject of the gift, has been talking about it over and over and over again. But a murder is one of the most concrete, irreversible gifts you can get. And if it goes wrong, oh, wait, Wendi, that's not what you wanted? Oh, well, we'll return it. Well, I know we're all going out to a celebration dinner, but you really didn't want the children of your father murdered? So that, and for all other reasons that we've discussed on this page, on this channel, I just don't think it's possible. And I don't think he thought it was possible. So let's get into it. Let's get into the first. This is Sigfredo and Katie's trial. And here is Georgia Kappelman asking Craig Isom when he started, where the direction of his investigation went. He had visited the crime scene that morning to early afternoon, talked to Wendi very shortly after, and let's take a listen.
People that were close to Mr. Markel.
Yes.
And who was the first person you interviewed?
The first person I interviewed was his ex-wife, Wendi Adelson.
All right. And where did you locate Ms. Adelson?
She was at the Mosaic restaurant in the Klearman common area.
About what time did you make contact with her at the restaurant?
I believe it was about 1:30, 2 o'clock on the same day.
1:30 or 2 p.m. on the day of the homicide?
Yes.
Okay, so a couple hours after.
Yes, after I was done at the crime scene, I went to her location.
All right. And as a result of your interview with Ms. Adelson, did you take an interest in her parents and her brother?
Yes.
All right. And did you, as a result of your interview, review any court filings?
I did.
What court filings did you review?
I reviewed the filings from the Adelson Markel divorce.
Right. It's not the Adelson family divorce. It's Wendy's divorce. Do you get where I'm going with this? So for everybody who's like, oh, he was so fooled by Wendi, where did he go immediately? Immediately after talking to Wendi, who, by the way, was the first person he talked to. You know, you want to keep people talking. And the best way to keep someone talking is not to act like you're suspicious of them. Old detective secret. But I love that, these detectives are smarter than we give them credit for being. I think the true crime audience gives a lot of these detectives credit for being. I think there's a feeling, when we're really invested in a case, because we're Monday morning quarterbacking, that somehow, because we're so invested in the case, that we would have done it all better. But in some ways, their hands were, the Adelsons, lawyered up. And I know there's a lot of different opinions as to why the Adelsons weren't gone after. I tend to go with the opinion that they were connected politically. But other people believe that it was the La Dolce Vita tapes, that the audio quality wasn't good, and that as soon as the audio quality was brushed up enough to really hear what Charlie was saying, that was the thing that turned the tide. And I think I was talking to Patty from Patty's Playhouse. We were talking about it, I think off air. And she's like, or maybe on air, I can't remember. But she was like, nah. She's like, no, I think it was off air. And she's like, nah. She's like, they could have tried Charlie without. And I was like, that's exactly what I felt, that they could have successfully tried Charlie without La Dolce Vita tapes. But a lot of people feel that is the smoking gun evidence in Charlie's trial. Let me know what you think.
I'm going to object to detective using documentation. Clearly, he's got his entire file from him. I can't see if he has anything.
Overruled before cross-examination, you'll be able to see whatever he has. You can proceed, Ms. Captain.
What did you review? Reference court filings?
I reviewed the filings from the clerk of court for Leon County concerning their divorce.
Whose divorce?
Wendi Adelson and Dan Markel.
All right, I'm going to approach and show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 75.
Did you guys catch that? He just almost called her Wendi Markel. That's how closely he connects Wendi to this.
You had an opportunity to review this exhibit?
Over time, yes.
All right, and is this a fair and accurate copy of the divorce file of Wendi Adelson and Dan Markel?
Yes.
How many pages is it?
It's numerous. I'd have to count. It's a full binder.
They're numbered.
Okay, well, we'll go to 575.
Okay, and were there any, well, Judge, this time I'd have to move the evidence state 75 and certified copy of the divorce file.
Wow, are those just the divorce records? Just the divorce filings? Look at those. Did you guys get a good look at that? They're huge. It's a huge 3-ring binder. Look at that thing. I know there have been remarks made about how long and voluminous Dan Markel's filings were, but geez, look at that thing. 500 and something pages.
Objection, motion to eliminate sidebar.
All right, we'll go so far.
Sigfredo looking sharp in his paisley tie.
So, subject to my ruling at sidebar, I'm admitting State's Exhibit 75.
And as a result of your review of this State's exhibit, did you learn about any bad blood between Ms. Markel and her husband, or between her family and her husband?
I did.
Objection here, Seth.
Overruled.
You may answer the question.
I did.
And what was that?
There was obviously.
Angela, was it closer to 800 pages? Okay, my mistake. My mistake. I thought I heard 500, but maybe that's just volume 1. Thank you, Angela. Jeez. Enormous. I think anywhere between 500 and 800, I think we could agree. Angela is enormous. No? Huge. Overwhelming.
A lot of contention in these filings. They were quite lengthy. The actual divorce occurred in July. It was settled by
July of what year?
2013.
Okay.
It was settled in it's what's called an MSA, a marital settlement agreement. And so it was settled at that point, but even after that, the filings continued against one another. Part of it was that there was Dan Markel filed a motion about sanctions, which means that he felt like there was money being withheld or.
Objection, Judge, also speculation.
Overruled.
You may continue.
That his ex-wife had falsified or not come clean about all the money involved in divorce. And then ultimately, in March of 2014, after the MSA, the divorce was final, Markel filed another complaint or a motion.
We're talking about Dan Markel.
Dan Markel.
In March of 2014? In March of 2014?
March 26th of 2014.
All right, go ahead.
And the.
I'm going to object to the detective's reading off notes.
Overruled.
Your Honor, for Meg Anwar, just a standing objection to.
All right.
So he was This motion in March of 2014 was concerning inappropriate interaction by his mother-in-law. That would be Wendi Adelson's mother, Donna Adelson. Because his children had told him, had made statements to him, repeating what Donna Adelson had stated about Dan Markel.
Which are things to the effect of grandma hates you, that kind of thing.
Grandma hates you, grandma thinks you're stupid.
All right, so what was it that Mr. Markel was seeking the court to do in this motion?
And he wanted no more disparaging remarks. There was an agreement during the MSA about love and companionship and niceness, for lack of a better term, between himself and his ex-wife, especially in front of the children. And so he requested the court sanction or put into place that Donna Adelson would not be able to have unsupervised visits or contact with the children because of these.
Right. And that will tell you how usually this would be just a conversation, but how bad things had broken down between and how little he trusted Wendi Adelson and Donna Adelson to keep their word. How he really thought that they were liars, because the normal way to deal with this, I think everybody would agree, would be to say, listen, I heard that my children, our children, as the phone was being passed from grandma saying some really disparaging things, this better be the last time I hear it. I understand that he was a lawyer, Dan Markel, but to go to Donna's got to have supervised visits means that he couldn't trust that those conversations would equal any kind of result, that this would stop it. I got a really interesting comment. I just want to bring it up for a second that kept, oh gosh, I can't, hold on one second. Let me credit this properly. This is from Tia Bawa 5771 wrote, the more I think of this case, the more I'm convinced that even had Dan Markel allowed the kids to move to Miami, the Adelsons would still have gotten rid of him, meaning murdered him or had him murdered. They hated him that much and they simply didn't want him around. Maybe they felt he was a threat to Wendi's career because of all the legal or illegal stuff Dan had against her. Didn't Lacasse say hating Dan was the Adelson family hobby? Correct, he did. They hated him. They are evil. Wendi smiles about the whole thing. What do you guys think of this? I mean, I know this is going into territories that we can only speculate on, but it certainly is a thought-provoking comment, at least for me. When we all talk about the moving Wendi, getting her, she hated Tallahassee, the fact that her law license was that she could have been sanctioned legally, meaning that at best, nothing would have happened, that the judgment would have gone against Dan Markel. The littlest sanction would be a public talking to by the judge, right, on the record. And at worst, she could have gotten her law license taken away for lying about financial matters in her divorce proceedings. However, for those of us who think that this, like me, who think this was a big deal, this would have traveled around Tallahassee. And for the way I view it is that the public image of the Adelsons is always so important to them, and that would have been a huge thing for Wendi. So we always talk about that, and we talk about moving the kids and the need to control the kids and the need to get get Dan Markel's and control, for Donna to have control. And control is raising Wendy's kids and control over Wendi closer to her. But here's a really interesting, I'm not sure where I stand. I think it's super interesting to think about. Because the Adelsons don't bend. If you don't go along with them, they don't bend. The closest thing they made to any kind of adjustment was to the eldest son's, Robert Adelson's, future wife, who they first said wasn't good enough. He had to marry a Jewish woman, and then he did marry a Jewish woman and got it annulled in 2 weeks, and then married this Indian woman who was the love of his life. He was still married to, and they did make some adjustments. They did go to the wedding. But otherwise, you don't see, it's their way or the highway. It's the way I see it with them. So if you think that Dan Markel is a zealot, then certainly it supports Tia's theory here that eventually that this was going to happen. It didn't matter if Wendi was in Miami or not, or if Dan was in Miami with Wendi. Let's say that happened. Would this still have happened? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Curious.
Remarks that he stated his children made.
And where did Donna Adelson reside?
She resided in Broward County, Coral Springs.
All right. And this motion that you're referring to, was it ever ruled on by a court?
No.
Why not?
Because of his death.
All right. And prior to this motion to preclude Donna Adelson from having unsupervised contact with the kids, had Wendi Adelson sought to relocate?
Yes.
And that's documented in the divorce filings as well?
Yes.
Where was she seeking to relocate to?
To Coral Springs, Broward County, where her parents reside.
All right. And was that ruled on by the court?
Yes, that was actually before the settlement agreement was done, that the judge for that case determined she could not leave Leon County with the children and relocate.
All right. And did you, when you interviewed Wendi Markel, or as part of your investigation, did you conduct an analysis or capture somehow the information on Wendi Adelson's laptop computer?
Yes.
And did you review some emails between Wendi Adelson and Donna Adelson?
I did.
All right. And did that further interest you regarding potential motives for this case?
Yes.
How so?
The emails from her mother were strong.
What do you mean?
Strong suggestions, if not demand.
Strong suggestions. The emails from Donna were strong suggestions. I just want to take the time to thank everybody who's become a patron. Just before I forget, Jeff Meadors, Jill, Debbie S., B. Rabbit, Lily Benjamin, Janet Gardner, and Barb Nauman. Thanks so much for becoming a patron. I appreciate it. You help make this show possible. Thank you.
And of what she should do to facilitate her and the children moving back to South Florida.
What Wendi should do?
Yes.
All right. And what was Donna Adelson suggesting that Wendi Adelson should do?
She suggested threatening Dan Markel with the children going to a Christian church, specifically at one time a Catholic church, even though he was devout Jewish. She also suggested at one point a bribe, for the most part, of $1 million split up between Wendi, Donna and her husband Harvey, and their son, which is Wendy's older brother, Charlie.
All right, let me back you up just a moment. So the first thing you mentioned was that Donna Adelson suggested to Wendi Adelson that in order to facilitate the relocation, she could convert her children to Catholicism, or threaten to do that.
Threatened to do so.
All right, and why, if you know, why would that have any impact on whether or not Mr. Markel would consent to letting his children go to South Florida?
That question.
Objection, speculation for the record.
Sustained.
Okay. All right, so she suggests that Wendi Adelson could convert her children to Catholicism or threaten to do so.
Yes.
And she suggests a bribe to Dan Markel.
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Every time I call this a bribe, I get comments in the comment section. It's not technically a bribe. Bribe is something else. So it's funny to me to see Craig Isom, or now retired detective, describe it as a bribe. I've been recently, just to avoid the amount of comments I get, I think I've been calling it enticing him with $1 million. But we all think of it as a bribe, don't we?
Yes.
And
To offer
when
him
you
money.
say split up between, what do you mean by that?
It's split up three ways is how the email reads, is that Wendi would supply $333,000 in change. Donna and Harvey Adelson, her parents, would have responsibility for $330,000 in change, as well as Charlie Adelson.
Did Wendi Adelson stand to gain anything financially from the death of Dan Markel?
Yes, my understanding, it's a lot, but my best understanding of the situation that Daniel Markel had set up was that he had a large life insurance policy for $2 million.
Objection, Judge.
Sustained.
A large life insurance policy for $2 million. I think that about says it. Doesn't it? And objection, immediately the defense objects and they get that sustained. So the jury is to disregard that. But I thought it was interesting. Of course, Wendi says that she had no control over it and it was for the kids, et cetera, et cetera. But Craig Isom considers it a possible motive for murder.
All right, so
Move to strike. And curative hearing.
There was no timely objection. I'll overrule that request.
okay, so I'll just ask her about that. I'll move on. Attempts to interview the Adelsons. Tell us about your attempts to interview Harvey and Donna Adelson.
Daniel Markel was shot on July 18th, which was a Friday.
Does anybody remember when, should I pull it up? I mean, if you guys are interested in seeing it, I think every time I show Rashbaum, everyone's like, I can't take it. Please, no more Rashbaum. But if you want me to pull it up, I will pull it up. But Rashbaum says in his interview with STS that they offered, that they just never got a hold of them, okay? Just keep that in mind, that they desperately wanted to talk to the police and participate in this investigation, yet I don't think he put it that way, but they were open to, let's put it that way. I'm exaggerating, okay? That they were happy to participate in the investigation, just no one contacted them. They made themselves available and no one wanted to talk to them. Does everybody remember that? Do I need to pull it up? Let me know if I need to pull it up. Okay, here's what really happened.
Friday, just before 11 a.m. He subsequently passed on in the wee hours just after midnight, my understanding, on July 19th, which was Saturday morning. There was a memorial service the very next day on Sunday morning at Shamra Torah Synagogue on Cary Forest Parkway. I attended that service. I went to that service. And while I was there, after the service was completed, I was approached by who introduced me. I was approached by a woman who introduced me as her name being Donna Adelson. We exchanged greetings, and she...
Objection here, sir.
Let's go sidebar, please.
Investigator Isom, or Mr. Isom now, did you request the woman that introduced herself to you as Donna Adelson, did you request for she and her husband to come to the police station to be interviewed by you?
Yes.
And did they ever do that?
No.
All right. And after your initial interview with Wendi Adelson, were you ever able...
Okay. Did everybody hear that? Did you request for Donna and was it, wait, hold on. Let's go back, actually. Was it Donna, Harvey, and Donna and Harvey? Or was it Donna and Wendi? To come to the... Let's just go back a little bit.
Did they ever do that?
No.
Come to the police station to be...
Sorry, guys.
Mr. Isom now, did you request the woman that introduced herself to you as Donna Adelson, did you request for she and her husband to come to the police station to be...
Okay, so it's Donna and Harvey. So that would include Rashbaum's client, Donna Adelson, who he says they never contacted him. Donna, and she was happy to participate. So it's just not good lawyering to do this kind of stuff. I understand that you can say anything. And this is why what's so frustrating about true crime reporting is that they'll take an interview or a witness who comes forward, who gives an interview to a magazine or a news source as important as what's said under oath. There's no punishment for lying to STS podcast or to a news source, but there is repercussions for lying under oath. So I weigh what Craig Isom says. I take what he says over what Dan Rashbaum says for various reasons, not just that he's under oath, that he's a more trustworthy. I take him as a much more trustworthy character than Dan Rashbaum. And I'm really curious to see, I mean, Dan Rashbaum just has, and Alex Morris, Donna's lawyers, has several motions that have to be weighed in on by the judge. And I'm curious, one is he wants to move the courtroom to a really small courtroom, which is exactly what was done in Karen Reed's trial. I believe Dan Rashbaum watched that, Karen Reed's trial. I think he's sad that he didn't have a kind of innocence fraud. He tried to have an innocence fraud campaign. It was too late. The public is too much against her, knows too much, too educated on the case. Would have never worked, but he wants to keep the public out like Karen Reed did in her case. Wants to keep any mention of flight out of that she went to the airport, quote unquote, as Dan Rashbaum likes to call it, that she just went to the airport. She just visited the Miami airport, guys. She just visited around for the great ambiance and the massage chairs that they have at the Miami airport. You guys see that when she's getting arrested? These big massage chairs there. She just went for those. It's not like she was boarding the plane when she got arrested, but they want to keep any mention of that out. I think they'll be wholly unsuccessful. I think their chances are zero of getting that out. But I'm curious to see if they will get the smaller courtroom. I doubt it, but there's always a chance. There just doesn't seem to be any good reason for it. I mean, you can make the argument it's still open to the public, but public isn't going to fit in that courtroom. Not much of it. And it's just going to make a feeding frenzy for the few seats that there are, and a feeding frenzy among the press. It's going to be a nightmare if you do it like that. But okay, Dan Rashbaum.
Be interviewed by you.
Yes.
And did they ever do that?
No.
All right. And after your initial interview with Wendi Adelson, were you ever able to reach her again?
I attempted on the Monday following the Sunday memorial service.
All right. And she basically hung up on you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And was that your last contact with Wendi Adelson?
Yes.
All right.
So she's driving away from the memorial service. He's like, can you come down? She's like, bad reception. Bad reception. I'm going to take a quick break. More with Isom when we get back. Don't go anywhere. See you in a minute.
We don't take a break. Grab a snack or maybe a glass of wine. Roberta will be back in no time. This podcast is listener supported, so smash that like button and subscribe, or become a patron for exclusive content if you are so inclined. Have something to say? Shoot Roberta a super chat. She will do her best to read it on air without delay. Now Roberta's back and ready to put the true back in true crime. Here's Roberta.
Okay, we're back with more of, if you're just tuning in, we're listening to Detective, now retired Detective Craig Isom's testimony in Sigfredo and Katie McBanoa's first trial, Sigfredo Garcia's only trial, but the jury hung on Catherine McBanoa, and it's the last time that they ever tried conspirators together. In this case.
After you reviewed these, I guess you interviewed Wendi Adelson, you reviewed these documents from the divorce and the emails. Did you jump to the conclusion that these were the people that were responsible?
No.
Did you pursue other leads as well as continuing to follow this lead?
Yes.
And independent of looking into the ex-wife and the in-laws, did you also attempt to gather information about the suspect vehicle in the case?
Yes.
All right. Could you tell us a little bit about the initial efforts to try to find the suspect Prius?
Well, the next door neighbor was the one that reported the shooting to begin with. And he gave us a general description of a light colored Toyota Prius type vehicle. It wasn't enough to put out a national bulletin or anything like that, but locally, we had told people that this was the type of car that was seen leaving the house, backing out of the driveway, going towards Benton Road on the day of the shooting.
Were you able to establish a timeline of the victim's activities prior to him being killed?
Yes.
And what was his timeline that morning?
Friday morning, he had the children with him, the two small boys. He drove them to the daycare center on West Star, I believe it's Creative Preschool. He dropped them off at 8:50 a.m. He left from there, traversed back across town, and went to the Premier Fitness on Maclay Boulevard.
All right, and at the Premier Fitness,
So this is pretty interesting. This is just how they found them, which was such an exhaustive investigation, including the FBI. Thank you, Mary Jane Bianco, for becoming a channel member. I'm going to be doing a show just for channel members soon. I don't know why it's taken me so long. I should have done it before, but it's coming up.
was surveillance video available?
Yes,
And have you had an opportunity to review the surveillance video?
yes,
And is there something you believe of evidentiary value on that video?
yes.
All right, I would ask for permission at this time, Your Honor, to publish the surveillance video, which is marked as State 124 and previously entered into evidence.
You may.
All right, you gonna help me with it? They finally decided to stop letting me touch the equipment.
So when I talked to John Lewin, Deputy DA, who tried Robert Durst, he's known as King of the Cold Cases. He talks about those like little jokes in court. I'm going to have a part 2 of my interview with him coming out soon. He talks about those little jokes and things like that, that to me seem so spontaneous, but how he really strategized them. It's like anything to cement your relationship with the jury. So you can hear things that we think are so spontaneous are really done with a reason to show that you're human. So you hear Georgia Kappelman saying, you know, I've been promised that I wouldn't touch the equipment when she's having trouble loading this video. And you can hear, I'm not sure if it's the gallery or the jury or both laughing.
Should be a pointer on the table.
Oh, I wonder what that was.
Put it up on this wall there, and if you need it, it's there.
So I just want to show this video. I hadn't seen it before, or maybe I didn't remember seeing it before.
Do you want the lights down?
Yes, sir. That would be helpful. Granger, will you turn the lights down for us, please, sir?
What's that?
Oh, he says they're over here.
Oh.
Does that mean you want me to do it?
No, I asked you. I thought you said no. Granger. Yes.
You have the right to.
Oh, I do.
Can you-
This is not my normal courtroom.
This one does not have any audio.
So lawyers are notoriously bad with technology, or also suspicious of it. Hate it, and when you work with these kind of videos, it's just sort of known that something's always going to go wrong. And sometimes you pay someone to just run the videos or run the showing of evidence because or younger lawyers, you know, dealing with it, because it's known that anything that can go wrong will go wrong when you're showing this kind of evidence in court.
May I stand? Yeah.
You may.
All right, so the police circle around black vehicle is, what the report is that.
Don't stand in front of the jury. So
This one right here.
right. And kind of point that microphone at you if you would. So,
Sorry.
no problem.
You will stand here.
Yeah, okay.
You can face the
Is he
jury,
blocking?
and you can observe on this.
Oh, okay.
Is he blocking? Oh. What's that? Oh, okay, okay. They've got screens in front of them. I didn't realize.
All right, so if you're gonna make that, I don't find it.
Okay.
Sure they can see. All right, so black car with purple text.
Can you put that back on there, please? I didn't see it. Okay. Okay. This is a black.
Objection, improper opinion, the video speaks for itself.
Overruled.
That's got to be Lacoste right there, one of Katie's lawyers. Just such an out there objection. The video speaks for itself. He doesn't want any opinion, improper opinion given by Craig Isom on this video.
This is a black Honda
So
Accord
funny.
that was owned and registered to Daniel Markel. He's entering this road over here, which is Village Square Boulevard. So he's entering the north part of Premier Health and Fitness.
All right, and this is a, surveillance camera that was mounted on top of it.
Right, this camera is maintained and operated by Premier Health and Fitness.
And on what date and time did Mr. Markel enter the parking lot of Premier Gym?
Well, he's there, as the timestamp indicates, 18th of July, which is a Friday, 2014. And the timestamp says, and it was verified, the timestamp is the actual time, to be 9/11 and a half, 37, as you can see on the timestamp in this way.
Circle where the timestamp is.
Okay, I'm sorry. The car turning. It's the same car from another camera angle. This camera is pointing northwest. The black Honda had made the turn, made the left turn up at the end over here where the trees are. Now it's proceeding down the front drive. It's a right-hand turn. The trees are somewhat blocking it, as you can see part of the car going in. He parks in the very front space. Right there. This is a green.
Were these shown in Charlie's trial? I don't remember them, but been a while since I've watched all of that.
Prius, Toyota Prius car that came in from another entrance off McClay Boulevard, the main entrance to Premier.
At what time did the Prius enter the parking lot?
As it indicates here, 9/12/34. So we're within seconds after Markel has parked his car, well within a minute. Right there, the same car. The last slide or video was 9/12/34. This camera is picking it up 9/12/37. Same car. Right there. And the victim vehicle is still here. It hasn't moved. He has not got out of his car yet. So Mr. Markel is parked there just before 9:12 even, 9:57. And now the Prius is entered from the main driveway entrance up here off McClay Boulevard. And now the car proceeding down the lane.
Okay, thank you. They were shown. Okay, I just don't, memory's a funny thing. So isn't it creepy? Don't you just want to go back in time and tell Dan Markel to not leave the gym, that someone's out to murder him? Don't you want to just get into a time machine? I always do when I watch this kind of stuff. But I wanted to show you. So it goes away from the sort of the subject of today's episode, which is really how Craig Isom, when he got on to Wendi. So I thought we'd watch the beginning, just the beginning, with this in mind, that immediately after talking to Wendi, he pulled the Adelson divorce record and Wendi Adelson and Dan Markel's divorce records, and turned his attention to the Adelson family right after speaking with Wendi. So I thought we'd just watch together the famous Adelson interrogation, just the beginning of it, and see if we can see him. This is when she's divulging sort of the most information in the beginning. Let's take a look.
I just listened to my voicemail.
What'd you hear?
Who
was your voicemail?
It's from Lisa Carey, who is my real estate agent, or who I had gone with to find a house. She just said she was driving around town and she heard there was a shooting on Trescott.
Yeah, that's what this is about. I'm sorry you had to hear it that way.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if I should.
It's all right, just leave it there. Is it still on?
It's right there.
Hey, it's Lisa Carey. It is Friday, and I feel like an idiot doing this, but I just heard that there was a shooting over on Trescott, and I promise I'm not trying to be dramatic or even nosy. I don't know. Just checking on you, my friend.
So that's what someone who's really distraught sounds like. And that's just a friend. Somehow the friend just hears about it and immediately has to call Wendi and knows something is wrong. Wendi is feet away from where it happened and thinks quote unquote, a tree fell. Who do you believe? I mean, I'll tell you who I believe, not Wendi, but.
I hope all is well.
And she, of course, got there by accident, right? She just had a bad sense of direction, was taking the shortcut that's not really a shortcut, but okay. All this we know. We all know that this is, or we all feel, let's say, how about that, except for a few. I've been getting someone said on Twitter that I'm going to get sued for talking about Wendi like this. It's all just my opinion, guys. Wendi's lawyers are on it, apparently, getting pushback. She had nothing to do with it. She's, of course, innocent legally until proven guilty in a court of law. I can have an opinion, though. I don't believe her police interview, certainly.
Usually boys are well, and if there's anything you need, let me know. It just ran a chill down my spine when I heard that there was something going on Trescott. All right, 212-3083. I hope all is well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
That's all right. You can stop it. Or does it stop automatically?
It's done.
Okay. Do you have your identification with you? So you never took the last name of Markel?
No.
Adelson. Okay. Wendi with an I. Joe. there was a shooting at your home or your ex-husband's home at 2116 Trescott. Okay. Your ex-husband, Daniel, all right, has been taken to the hospital. He's not going to survive.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Did you guys just see how delayed that was? So we have like the voice reaction and then the face reaction, but they're not really synced up. So it's like her face is a little too, oh my God. And then you have like the scrunchy in pain face and then the hiding behind your hands. It's just a little off. Usually you'd make the face as you make the voice, right?
I have a message for him this morning. What happened?
Well, before we get into everything, I have to establish where you were and who you were with and so forth.
Okay.
Okay. And then once we've established all that, I can give you more details.
Okay.
Do you understand why I wanted you to come here before I discuss this?
Oh my God.
Oh, my boyfriend wants to weigh in here.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that clip in a while. It's like she's like, as the police cop is talking, giving her the bad news, like she's already has the face react, like it's like she's waiting. Can I react negatively yet? Like she's like waiting for him to give her the bad news that she already knows, so she can cry. Like, but her face gives it all away ahead of time. It's amazing.
Right, the blank. She has the blank face. And then the voice comes first, and then the scrunchy face, and then hiding behind her hands because she's not sure she can fully sell it. And then she's supposed to be hysterically crying here, and then she can talk in full voice. In full voice, she can talk. Amazingly in full voice, she can talk after this. After she's supposed to be so upset, because as everybody knows, when you're really upset and really crying hard, you can't talk because your voice is supported by your breath. So when you're upset, the first thing someone says to you is, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. Because when we're so upset, our breath is way all over the place. We can barely, so she's trying to imitate that. But the next minute, she's fine, talking full voice, full breath, no problem. So she tries to sort of imitate that hysterical breath, but it's really hard to do at any length of time. It would exhaust a normal person. And I would think that she would be exhausted after, what did she say, 4.5 hours, 6.5 hours she was at the police station? What was it exactly? Does anyone know? Is it 4.5 hours? It's a 4.5 hour tape. But was it stopped? Was she there longer?
That's okay. No, you have nothing to be sorry about. Can you let me get over this hump, okay? Can we do that first? All right. Can you tell me what time you left your house this morning?
Yeah, I was there. I didn't leave this morning. I didn't leave until noon.
Okay. And
oh my God. And I tried to drive up Trescott and I saw that it was blocked.
It was blocked at some point.
Oh my God, I'm just putting it together. I'm what did she graduate? Summa cum laude from Brandeis? Like, which is nothing to sneeze at when it comes to college or university to graduate from. She's like, I'm just putting it together. My friend put it together immediately upon hearing that there was a shooting on your street. But now I'm just putting it together. I just drove by and I saw police crime tape. Could it be? Could the two be connected? And look at her voice. Full voice. Full voice. No problem here. No problem breathing here. Just look at her face. It's just absolutely smooth brow. I guess you could argue that would be from Botox, but not even a hint of any wrinkled brow or any real pain on her face.
I'm not sure what time it was.
And I just thought, oh, there's maybe some trees down or something. Because sometimes.
Oh, you're saying as you drove down which one of the side roads?
When I'm going to a friend's party tonight, and it's a oh my god, what am I even talking about? I needed to buy, it's a stock the shelf engagement party, and so I went to buy bourbon. Okay. So I went to drive from my place up Trescott to get to ABC Liquor, and it was blocked, so I just turned around. I was on the phone at the time. I wasn't paying a lot of attention.
Right. We know Wendy's family was good with Photoshop. So I've heard other people got those invitations. But I've also heard Georgia Kappelman's skepticism at this invitation. So I'm not sure what the true story, until it's admitted into evidence and accepted, stipulated to by both parties, that this invitation, and just let me tell you, let me see if I still have it. Did I take it? Do I still have the Stock the Bar party, or did I take it down? I still have some of it. Some of it, right? Stock the Bar. Why did I take down like the most important part? Why was I so silly to remove that? Oh no, I have it. I have the other half. Here's the other half with the bullet bourbon. So it says like with a little tag here, bring bullet bourbon, and she bought bullet rye whiskey. Here it is. Here's another. This is the whiskey, which she had, of course, the receipt for, which you'd want to keep, right? When you're bringing it as a gift, you'd want to have that receipt, right? I don't know. Some people keep receipts for everything. I'm not one of them. Reminds me of the Mitch Hedberg joke about the donut. I don't need a receipt for the donut. You give me the donut, end of transaction. We don't need to bring ink and paper into this. Does anyone know that joke?
Attention. So I just turned around and drove up the other way. I just thought, oh, sometimes when I lived there were electrical things that would happen. I left my house around 12:15 because I thought, I'll get the bourbon and then I'll get some gas for the car and I need super glue for one of the boys' toys. And I was trying to do all I can before meeting my two friends at 1.
Okay, who was at your house this morning?
The only person that was at my house this morning was a guy from Best Buy because my TV was broken and it's under warranty.
Easy for you.
Yeah, I figured.
Okay, a guy from Best Buy was at your house to work on your TV?
I had his name and everything at the house if you want it, because the boys broke the TV, so he gave me a choice.
So the more I've interviewed police officers, dealt with, see the more interrogations I see, the more testimony I see of detectives, police officers, the more I trust their instincts. When I've interviewed them, it's the creepiest thing. They know the question I'm going to ask before I'm going to ask it. They deal with a lot of different kinds of people. And already I would think that Craig Isom is getting his spidey senses, for lack of a better word, up about Wendi. Like, this does not seem like a genuine reaction to him. Something made him pull all her divorce records after she left.
Fixing it or getting a new one.
What time did he come to the house?
He called me at around 8. He was probably there until around 10.
Okay. Okay. And then you,
And then after he left, I kept working on a paper, and I emailed the paper to a librarian at school to work on some of the citations.
okay.
And I don't think I talked to anyone else, but I was just working for an hour or so from the house. I was gonna take a shower, but I didn't. I ran out of time. I did laundry. And then I left the house around noon.
To go to the liquor store and the stuff for the party.
Yeah,
Okay, you went down which road you said?
I went down Trescott.
Okay.
I saw a police car there, and I just thought it was blocked, so I just turned around and drove to, I went down the rest of Centerville, went up Benton across, went to ABC Liquors, bought the bourbon.
I'm a little confused. You're up on Centerville Road. What's your purpose of driving down Trescott?
It's usually the shortcut to get to Monroe.
To get to Monroe?
I usually take it as a cut through to get to Thomasville or Monroe.
Okay, all right, so
I
you,
don't know why I said Monroe. I was thinking Mosaic Monroe.
Did you guys get that? He's a little confused. That's the nice Southern way of saying, I don't believe you. You were it just happened to be driving the wrong way down the crime scene when you're going in a totally different direction, or a direction that you do not need to drive down Trescott. Patty's Playhouse did a nice video, interesting video of the whole drive. Breaks down the whole drive, what it looks like now. But it was done, I think the other one that was done, and I can't remember who did it. It wasn't the summer, it wasn't July, and so you get more of a sense from Patty's video what it must have been really like driving. Of course, things have changed a little bit, but not significantly. Encourage you to check out that video. I think it's her biggest video on her not live videos on her channel.
Thomasville.
okay, so when you come down into town on Centerville,
I almost always cut through Trescott.
and just drive by your old house?
Well, I do it as a way of coming to terms with the divorce. But yeah, sometimes I drive there. If I'm too sad, I drive around.
She's too sad about the divorce of a man she didn't love and shouldn't marry. Told people, if you heard the victim impact letter I read last episode, she was telling friends of Dan, who were friends just of Dan, that she felt that she had married the wrong man. Is that exactly what she said? Hold on one second. Let me pull it up exactly what she said. Hold on. I'll look for it while we can watch this. Hold on. But yeah, she feels so sad. She comes to terms with the divorce by just driving by his house. Coincidentally, just when he got right after he got murdered. And she thinks that a tree has fallen and that the police are there and medics are there to do CPR on a tree. Ridiculous.
The kids aren't home, and I know they're not home. I feel better about driving by the house. But yeah, it's shorter, and I just usually drive by.
It's shorter than going all the way down to Benton.
All the way down Centerville and around Benton. It's just a shortcut.
He's like, I'm not going to push you on this. I'm just going to keep you talking. But the crazier thing is, do you remember when she says that the alarm later in this talk, that the alarm went off? And when she's first asked in this trial whether it was she who Luis Rivera in his proffer says was walking down the street with her kids to check things out, that would have been, it seems like it might have been, Wendi doesn't know whether the alarm that she still gets, Dan's alarm went off, whether she still gets, was that alarm pinned off and she came by to make by Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia? Was it just a random alarm, or was that Wendi walking by? I think everybody says with Wendi's schedule that it was stipulated in Charlie's trial that it couldn't have been her with the schedule of the kids. But that schedule is awfully leaves a lot of time, and we know that that they didn't always follow it, and that actually was a source of contention with Dan Markel and Wendi that Dan would she would take the kids out of daycare early without telling him. And that she didn't like him visiting for lunch, for having lunch with them. So yeah, it was something akin to I married a man I didn't love. I'll find it.
It was took.
Okay, so you turned around and went back to Centerville, I take it?
Yeah.
Down to Benton and went to the liquor store down there on Thomasville?
Yeah.
The one at Benton Road?
ABC Liquors. It's at Benton. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Did you make a purchase there?
Yeah.
Okay, here it is. So later that evening, after Dan and his family departed, she said she married the wrong man. His spouse revealed to me privately, meaning Wendi, that she believed she had married the wrong man. But she's so sad about the divorce that she has to drive by her divorce with the wrong man. Give me a break. It all is just so foolish and ridiculous. The fact that true crime, I know Wendi has her supporters. They're very few, though. That everyone's so unified in not believing this will tell you what a bad job of acting she really did.
And that was sometime after 12?
Probably 12:30.
Okay. All right.
And I talked to a guy there because I don't really buy much alcohol. And so they wanted bourbon. And I asked the guy, we had a whole conversation about bourbon and my eyes.
Your eyes?
He just said, your eyes are really blue.
Right.
And
you have contacts?
I do.
Okay.
But I just remembered it.
Right.
So I bought the bourbon and got some gas on Thomasville and met my friends at Mosaic.
Which gas station did you go to on Thomasville?
The one that's, I always forget the name, but the one that's close to the cross street. It's right next to the Goodwill.
Okay.
If you're heading north on Thomasville, if you're heading north on Thomasville, it's on your right.
Okay. Just past the Goodwill
Just
place?
past the Goodwill. It's close to the intersection there.
Okay. All right. And then from that point, you went straight to
Went to Mosaic.
Mosaic restaurant?
And met friends there. I used to have kind of a...
Right. They had to tell me how blue my eyes were and how beautiful I was. He did mention how beautiful I was. And I don't know much about liquor. He had to help me pick out liquor, even though Jeffrey Lacasse says that I drank my dinner most nights, but never mind that. I'm just not familiar with alcohol. She always likes to say she never drinks.
Steady Friday meeting, and I hadn't seen my two friends in a while. And so we had made plans to meet up.
What time did you get to Mosaic?
About 1. I was a little late. We were supposed to meet at 1, and I got there a few minutes after.
Okay. All right. I know it's cold in here. Okay.
I think that's not why I'm
Okay.
shaking.
I know it's part of it, but do you know anybody that would have?
As soon as he mentions the cold, we get the trembly breathing coming in. Now I can remember to tremble and breathe. That's not why I don't think that's why I'm shaking. Are you noticing I'm shaking and really upset? And I have the trembly breathing that I can't really keep up, because I'll tell you what I did last Tuesday. The next sentence. Oh, what? Next Tuesday? Yeah. And he said my eyes were really blue and trembly breathing. Oh gosh, it's so bad. The more you watch it, the more you realize what a terrible performance it is. We're not gonna go through all of it. We're just gonna go through a little, just to get a flavor of what Isom might have been feeling and knowing and sensing in the first. Because, like I said, he immediately, according to his testimony, honed in on the Adelson family after this. His first interview was with Wendi. And immediately after, he got the divorce records. That'll tell you how good his instincts were. He went right to the Adelson. We always talk about, in this case, about how smart Jeffrey Lacasse was, and he was. But Isom was no dummy. And a lot of times I know it has been said Wendy's fooling him. I don't think so.
A beef against your ex-husband?
He's, oh God.
I hate to ask it now, but I have to do it now. You understand, right?
I understand. He had friends. He always meant well, but he would sometimes rub people the wrong way.
Okay.
But not anyone who would do something like this.
Anybody that he owes money to?
No, he owes money to me.
He owes money to you?
But not me.
Okay. All right.
Whoops. Anyone he owes money to? Me. Oh, wait, not me. It's not me. Whoops. Shouldn't have said that. There's a stumble. Wendy's part.
Oh my God,
And right after that stumble, some massive crying. Or massive fake blubbering, shall I say, better put.
I know a lot of people didn't really love him, but I don't know anyone who would do something like this.
Well, we're still trying to determine, what happened and how it happened.
But he wouldn't do this to himself.
Okay.
He was a very positive person.
Okay. No one that you know of or that he's spoken to recently that he's had some type of problem with or that he was concerned about?
No one that he was concerned about. I mean, we've been separated for 2 years, so I don't know,
right.
If he had something going on, I wouldn't know about it. But I mean, I had lost my voice earlier this week, and so we had put off this conversation about our son's school and where he was going to go, and he I know a lot of people didn't love him, but not anyone who would hate him. He
Right. I mean, he meant well. Isn't that what everyone wants to be said about themselves by other people, that they meant well and that they rubbed people the wrong way and that a lot of people didn't like him, but a lot of people didn't like you, but nobody hated you enough to have you murdered, except maybe me, because he owed money to me. I mean, she throws herself under the bus. I mean, we always talk about, or Georgia Kappelman, rather, always talks about, or has talked about in her confrontations with Wendi on the stand, how she threw Charlie Adelson under the bus in the first, 17 minutes of this interview? She throws herself under the bus within the first 10 minutes of this interview. He owes money to me, but it's not me. And interestingly, it's Isom who points out that there was a $2 million life insurance policy that all went to Wendy's kids, managed by Wendi. How has access to that money, I'd like to know the real story. I don't really trust what Wendi says on the stand under oath. Sorry. It's supposed to be meant for the children, but is it under her care and control? Can she use it? I believe she can, is what I've heard, but I don't know. I haven't seen how it's laid out.
not well. Everyone that knew him knows that he means well, but he can be a little argumentative.
Right.
But not, he didn't owe anyone money. He didn't do anything except work and take care of his kids. He wasn't involved in anything bad.
Okay.
I can't believe this is happening.
I know. And he was a professor at the law school, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And your divorce has been 2 years or the total separation, I'm assuming?
Total separation's been 2 years. our divorce was finalized last summer around this time.
Okay.
He wouldn't do this to himself. He has a girlfriend now.
Do you know his girlfriend?
I met her once in the last couple of weeks. She was visiting. She lives in New York.
Okay. Do you know anything about her?
I know some things about her. She's also a law professor. I know she's recently divorced and she has a son. I don't know if her divorce is final, but I think recently divorced.
Right. We've talked about Amy Adler a lot on this channel. Amy Adler is the woman he's dating. Dan Markel's dating. The sister of Jonathan, designer Jonathan Adler, with a big home on Shelter Island. He's since moved out. He had a huge duplex in New York, and he bought. I can't remember if it was a duplex or he just bought the apartment next to him. So they expanded. They had a big apartment. He's married to Simon de Noonan, who was famous for doing the Barney's windows. Barney's was like a fancy department store, like a Bergdorf Goodman's, or what would be another one, like something that everybody would know, a Harrods if you're English, or a Saks Fifth Avenue, like a hipper Saks Fifth Avenue, since closed in New York. But he did these wild windows. So they're married. He's gay, obviously. He's married to a man, Simon de Noonan. And he has this home on Shelter Island, which I believe Amy Adler and Dan Markel visited, if I'm not mistaken. I've shown that home. And Amy is very beautiful and accomplished, and she teaches law at NYU and law related to art. So she would have been hugely a threat to someone like Wendi. I mean, she's very beautiful, very accomplished, and with a lot of social cachet, all things that are important to Wendi.
Where's she a law professor at?
At NYU. And they seemed very happy. And I mean, I think that was a really good thing in his life. He seemed really happy about it. She came down here, she met the boys, and I met her, and she told me how great she loved the boys. You know, like it seemed fine.
Did she ever stay at the house with him?
Just that one time.
When was that?
I remember because I just got back from being with my family in South Florida. Sorry.
It's okay. You're doing great.
So what date was it? I went with my family. It was my dad's 70th birthday, and we went home for it. So his birthday was the 5th. I left Monday the 30th. So she must have come into town Saturday, the evening of the 28th.
What month? June. This past June.
Just now. So June 28th. And then she was there with the boys.
So just to give you an idea of who Amy Adler is, just quick look at her. Hold on one second. This is she.
The term meme to be to stand for what he thought was a unit of cultural transmission. And in any event, since that time, memes have come to be inseparable from their digital, what we now understand them to occupy a digital context. And
okay, so just to give you a sense of who Wendi is talking about, not often referred to. She's talking about, I think, the legal of owning the copyright to a meme, I believe. So back to Wendy's ridiculous. We're just going to watch a little of this.
The 29th, and then I met her on the morning of the 30th when I picked up the kids to take them to South Florida.
Do you know when she left?
I could probably find it, like in my email and stuff. I think she was here for like one more day, and then Danny went up to New York because I was with the kids in Miami for a good long while. I was there. I drove back July 10th, so I was there almost 2 weeks. And so I think he went up the next day.
Okay. Do you know her name?
I do. It's Amy Adler. Oh my gosh.
A.D.
Adler.
And she's a professor of law at NYU?
Yeah.
What kind of car does she drive?
I have no idea. I don't know if she has a car. She lives in New York City.
Well, so I mean, she was driving down. I mean, she flew down here, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you have her phone number?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know how long they were dating even. It seemed kind of serious if she met the kids, but I don't really know. He's been going up to New York for like conferences and stuff since Lincoln was about a few months old. So he's been going up there 3.5 years. So I my guess was that they might have known each other for a long time, but have been dating. I don't know how long.
Well, let me ask you something. Does his relationship with her have anything to do with your all's divorce?
No.
No, it had nothing to do with
No.
an extramarital affair or anything?
No, but the only thing I'm thinking is Amy, I don't know what Amy's whole divorce situation is like. So if you're gonna think of someone who's not thrilled with Danny, I don't know how happy her husband or ex-husband is with the situation.
Do you know anything?
There it is again. This was their plan. I mean, so this is also relevant in that in Donna's notes, she was talking about Amy Adler. So we talked about how all these notes were found. Some of them were, hold on, I can show you in a second. Some of them were like her trial. These were texts sent to herself about Charlie's trial. Some of them were notes showing that she was very serious about closing up shop in Southern Florida and looking up non-extradition countries to prove that she wasn't just going for vacation. She was getting visas and really, handing over her keys to her apartments to other people, buying things, setting up trusts for Charlie's son, et cetera, et cetera. So showing that but one of the notes was about Amy Adler. And this family is obsessed with the idea that this would be to blame it on some kind of jilted ex-lover of Dan Markel, like Amy Adler's ex-husband. Like he would care enough that Amy Adler was dating, not marrying, not engaged, dating Dan Markel. They were serious. It would seem to be a happy relationship, but come on. So we may see Amy Adler come up in Donna's trial. This is a direction Donna wanted to go as Amy Adler's ex-husband as a possible other suspect in the same way, I believe. I mean, we've gone over Gibbers, the channel Gibbers, GHIBERCSZ or CZ, look it up, did an awesome video on the car color and how the car that they had that Sigfredo and Luis rented, every time they went down to, every time they rented a car, it looked significantly enough like Jeffrey Lacasse's car. So Jeffrey Lacasse was the first person for Wendi to break up with him to drive by on his way somewhere else right after the crime, right? They knew he was going on a trip. We've covered all this. So they're obsessed with this idea that it could be some kind of jilted lover. And it seems like Donna's still stuck on that as an alternative suspect and maybe could be part of her defense.
About him.
What do you think about him?
So you know Amy Adler, she's a professor at NYU. She was down here from the end of June through the first part of July.
I think just a few days.
Right.
Yeah.
As visiting, but he'd been seeing her when he goes to New York on these conference trips.
Well, he's in New York in the summertime. We have a week on, week off schedule with the boys. So whenever I have them for a week, he goes up to New York for a week. So he's been spending a lot of time up there.
Did he relay to you that he'd been seeing her up in New York, or that's where they met, or anything of that nature?
He didn't tell me about it, but I feel like he was pretty vocal with like our friends and people probably since December about her being his girlfriend. So
Okay. Who would be his best friend?
When we were still together, he had two best friends. Neither of them are in Tallahassee.
Okay.
Oh my God, I'm completely blanking on their last names right now.
That's
There's
okay.
Matt Price, that was his best man at our wedding. And Josh Berman, who, Matt is in DC and Josh is in New York. Actually, he has a friend, I don't know if they're so close, but he and the boys sleep over at their house a lot. They're in Cairo, Georgia.
Okay.
That's probably his closest friend here.
Do you know his name?
His name's Alex Greenberg. He's a veterinarian in town, and they've got kids around the same age as our kids.
He's a vet here in town?
Mm-hmm. And I think
Do you know
they're
where his
close.
office is?
I don't. Maybe in Cairo.
Oh, he doesn't have an office in Tallahassee.
I don't think so.
He's a vet in Cairo.
Their house is in Cairo. His wife is a dentist. I don't know if her practice is in town or in Cairo either. His wife is Maya, MYA.
Okay. You're being very helpful. Okay, and I know it's hard.
I'm trying. I just
You're doing
can't
fine.
believe what's happening.
You're doing fine. I know it's all the shock. I know it's coming to you all at once. Okay.
I don't know.
I know it's hard. As soon as he says it's hard, then she's like, oh, I remember. I got to cry now. She was like listing off those names like it was nothing. Craig Isom's like, I know it's hard. I can't remember the last names. Oh, here you go. Here's a couple last names for you.
Who would do this?
Okay. Well, it appears from what we've seen so far that someone intentionally hurt Danny. Okay, intentionally. Okay, I don't
Do you
think.
know who it is?
No, and I don't
What if
think.
they come after the boys?
I don't think that's going to be. I have no indication at this time.
What if they come after the boys? The most ridiculous thing. This is the last time Wendi was curious about Dan Markel's murder. Right here. We're watching the last time she showed any curiosity about who did it. Isn't that interesting? Right here. Who did it? I don't know who did it. With a crying voice, broken voice. I don't know who did it. If you're listening to this on podcast, I'm sorry. A lot of this is visual.
That's a threat. Okay. But the boys are going to stay with you. You're not going back over to Trescott. Okay.
No, I don't live there anymore.
I know you don't. But the boys are going to stay with you. Okay. And they'll be fine.
I don't know if I can take care of them like this.
All right. Where's your closest family at?
My family actually just talked.
Cue my family. I don't know if I can take care of them alone. I know I just listed off 17 names calmly and wasn't upset till you cued me to be upset, but okay. I don't know whether I can take care of my kids alone. Cue my parents' arrival. So they need to rush me off to Miami as soon as possible. ASAP. And whether she had her stuff all packed, there's curious comments by Jeffrey Lacasse about her not letting her in, I can't remember if it was her beyond the porch or beyond the bedroom. Help me out, guys. She could have been packing.
To my brother this morning, my parents are in Coral Springs.
Okay.
And my brother, I have two brothers, but I'm very close to one of them who is in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. All right. So that's where you're from originally, I take it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
His family's in Canada. Did they know? Did you tell them?
No, they haven't been notified
Oh
yet.
God. His parents are gonna be devastated.
Okay. This is what I want to do, okay? This is what happened, okay? Daniel's been shot.
So crazy.
Okay, and we have to find out why and who did this. Can you help with that?
I will try.
Okay. What I want to do right now to try to expedite things, okay, but I need your permission, is I want to take your cell phone and download all the information out of it.
Sure.
Do you have a problem with that?
No.
Okay. And then we're going to make arrangements for you to get the kids, or we'll get the kids somehow, okay? Because the kids are at daycare, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to need their mother,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay. I got to get a form for you to sign, and then I'm going to get the phone started, okay?
Oh my God. I have a lot of friends.
I know.
How do you know that?
Well, you had two of them up there for a last minute lunch date, right?
Oh, I think this might be apologies to, to be fair, to just be totally fair. This might be a little bit off. I'm noticing it. That maybe what Law and Crime did was take the audio and clean up the audio, because you can hear like sometimes the buzz runs through it, and they might have separated it from the video. It looks like it's a little uncued up. So maybe I was unfair to say that Wendy's voice and face weren't on cue.
Last minute.
Well, I mean, that you went up there, you're sitting with them, you have friends.
I do. What I meant by it is that Danny didn't treat me very well. And I'm so scared that maybe someone did this. Not because they hate Danny, but because they thought this was good somehow.
Oh, are you saying that you think maybe one of your friends would have done something like this?
Who would do this?
I don't know. That's why you're here, and that's why we're talking. Would you ever ask someone to do something like this?
Not in a million years.
Okay. Do you think someone would do this for your benefit without asking you?
No.
What good does it serve?
Everybody hear that? Wendy just throws herself under the bus there. She's saying, so if we think, so like Isom thought that immediately after this, he went and pulled her divorce records. He asked her, would someone do this for you without asking? No. Because that's, A, if you've lived life even a little bit, that's so implausible. But B, she knows her family wouldn't do this without her being in on it. Here she goes, throwing herself under the bus right there. Everybody hear that? Would someone do this without your... I'm going to go backwards so everybody hears that.
Would you ever ask someone to do something like this?
Not in a million years.
Okay. Do you think someone would do this for your benefit without asking you?
No.
No. So would you ask someone directly? No. But would I whine and complain so it would someone else's idea until it was someone else's idea and hint around till it's someone else's idea? Yes. That's my opinion. This is all my opinion. Wendi Adelson again is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This is just my opinion, looking at her police interview and looking at the evidence in the cases of the other conspirators. Wendi Adelson remains an unindicted co-conspirator in this case. So,
what good does it serve?
I made my brother, his name is Charlie, the one I'm really close to. He makes a lot of jokes in bad taste, and it was a joke he made. He bought the TV for me this morning that got broken, and I was talking to him about whether it made sense to pay to fix it or whether I should get a new one. And it was always his joke that like he knew Danny treated me badly, and it was always this joke. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman, and it was cheaper to get you this TV, so instead I got you this TV. I mean, he would never. He's my big brother, and he's been taking care of me since I was little, but he would never. And I told that to the repair guy this morning.
Right. That's okay.
I said, he asked me how much it cost, and I said I didn't know because it was a gift, because my brother said it was cheaper than a hitman. It was my divorce present.
Okay.
And I think that's a good place to leave it for today. My brother always had this joke. He always had this joke. Always, always, always. I'm going to take a quick break. When we don't go anywhere, when we get back. More stuff for you. Don't go anywhere.
We don't take a break. Grab a snack or maybe a glass of wine. Roberta will be back in no time. This podcast is listener supported, so smash that like button and subscribe, or become a patron for exclusive content if you are so inclined. Have something to say? Shoot Roberta a super chat. She will do her best to read it on air without delay. Now Roberta's back and ready to put the true back in true crime. Here's Roberta.
Okay. So, I'm going to end the way. Actually, hold on one second. So, I mean, I think I had this all queued up, and then I wanted to find that quote. So let me get back to where, my apologies for not doing this during the break. Just want to find the letter I'm looking for. Okay. So I'm going to end the way I usually end, with a victim impact letter in this case. A lot of crazy things, by the way, going on. Other cases, Karen Reed, be getting back to that soon. It's like Karen Reed and beyond, because Aidan Carney is, his whole legal saga is its own thing too. That's happening very shortly. My understanding. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. This was written for Catherine McManawa's retrial. Dear Judge Wheeler, my name is Ruth Markel. I am Dan Markel's mother. People are not supposed to outlive their children. A mother should never have to bury her own child. Perhaps this is why there are words to describe someone who loses a spouse or their parents, widow, orphan, but there is no word in the English language for someone who loses a child. And yet, because of the terrible, heinous acts of a few, including the defendants in this case, my son Daniel's life was cut very short, and I have been forced to experience the unthinkable and to live a life filled with unimaginable pain and heartbreak that no mother should ever have to endure. I would not wish such pain and heartbreak on Ms. McManawa or Mr. Garcia or anyone else who may have had a hand in my son's murder. This was a particularly heinous and senseless crime. Murder is the worst, most serious crime a person can commit. The crime in this case was all the more tragic because an innocent, good person was murdered in cold blood. The murder was not revenge for or related to some other crime, nor was it a sad but predictable event that could happen to someone living a life of crime. Dan was never involved in any criminal activity and did not put himself in dangerous situations or live recklessly. Dan was instead an upright, thoughtful citizen and a devoted father and a loving son who lived a law-abiding and productive life dedicated to teaching and helping others. As the letters, that this court has received from Dan's family, friends, colleagues, mentors, and others reflect, Dan was a loving, caring, uplifting, and inspiring person to everyone around him. Dan was a devoted son and family member, cherishing family celebrations and always making time for lengthy phone calls with me and other family members in Canada, United States, and Israel. As my son, everything about Dan and everything he did made me proud. From his love of music, dance, sports, and travel, to his dedication to and hard work in school, culminating in his acceptances into Harvard University, where he studied politics and philosophy as an undergraduate, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and Emmanuel College in Cambridge, where he earned a master's degree in political theory, and finally, Harvard Law School, where he received his JD and began his impressive legal career. After graduating law school, Dan served as a law clerk for a federal circuit court judge and then worked as an associate at a prestigious law firm in Washington, D.C. Dan then began what proved to be a successful career in academia, becoming a professor of law and landing a coveted teaching position at a top U.S. law school right here in Florida, FSU, College of Law. Of all of my son's accomplishments, however, I am most proud of the father Dan was to his beautiful boys, Lincoln and Ben. It's hard to capture in words the joy and excitement I felt when Dan, our son, became a father and I became a grandmother. I derived even more joy and happiness watching Dan raise his two sons. Dan was a present, devoted, loving, supportive, selfless father, and he always acted with his son's best interest in mind. Dan regularly attended the boys' daycare, leading holiday programs for all the children. Dan's office and home were covered with the boys' drawings, and the family's living room were always full of the boys' toys. Regardless of the situation, Dan always put his children's safety and well-being ahead of his own. Lincoln and Ben loved their father. He was their hero. Dan offered the world his love, his wisdom and opinion, his energy, his friendship, and his warmth. Since the day he was born, Dan was alert and energetic. He did not waste his energy. He used it to live life to the fullest. For example, even in his short life, he pursued his passion for travel and lived in many cities, including Montreal, Toronto, Boston, New York, London, Jerusalem, Washington, D.C., Phoenix, San Francisco, Miami, and Tallahassee. He made meaningful connections with people wherever he went. He made friends all over the world and continued to stay in touch with everyone he befriended. When Dan moved to Tallahassee, he quickly became an integral part of the community. Dan made many close friends at FSU and in the broader Tallahassee community. He regularly attended community events and frequently hosted others at his home. Dan was on the board of Shomerai Torah Synagogue and regularly attended services, holiday and children's programs. He was also involved with the Chabad community. Dan's murder has not only deprived his large network and community of dedicated and caring family members and friends, it has also deprived the world of a brilliant attorney, teacher, and legal academic. Dan was a prolific scholar in the areas of criminal law and punishment and published a book on the intersection between criminal justice and family. Numerous articles in the nation's leading law reviews and opinion pieces for the New York Times, Slate, and the Atlantic, among other publications. Dan's scholarship on retribution in criminal law and sentencing was highly influential and is widely read and cited today. Dan also co-founded a blog, Prof's Blog, which focuses on a variety of topics related to law and life. Due to Dan's amazing dedication and tireless work, Prof's Blog continues to grow and inspire legal scholars and students around the world. In addition to his scholarship, Dan was a devoted professor who was deeply involved in the FSU community. Dan was passionate about teaching, and his students adored him. After his death, over 200 students from FSU attended his memorial service. Dan served on the law school's recruiting committee and worked to recruit high-level academics to FSU, including by personally hosting many of the recruits and new faculty members. Dan's energy, drive, and sociability enhanced both the student body and the faculty of the FSU College of Law. As the court knows, Dan's life was brought to a sudden, abrupt, and tragic end when he was murdered in July 2014. The losses sustained and the damage caused by the crime cannot be overstated. In one fell swoop, my son, a brother, and the father of 2 young boys were all killed. My life was shattered. Dan's murder has caused me a deep pain that is both disruptive and permanent. After the death of a loved one, you are supposed to face the loss, the void, experience the grief, and maybe get closure if you're lucky. But when you lose a child, life's progression comes to a complete stop, and the grief and pain of a mother who loses her child never ends. For me, closure and normalcy are only words in a dictionary, not a reality that I will ever experience again. I have waited more than 5 years for those involved in Dan's murder to be brought to justice, which only exasperated my pain, grief, anxiety, and health. It is very cumbersome to navigate and participate in the legal process encountered in the days, weeks, and years following the murder. From the day I learned about Dan's death, I experienced a life sentence. But I know that even after justice occurs, Dan's murder will continue to torment me for the rest of my life. Other lives were destroyed as well. The lives of Dan's 2 sons, my grandchildren, were forever turned upside down as a result of this crime. Benjamin was 3 years old and Lincoln was only 2 years old when their father was murdered. Benjamin and Lincoln have been forever deprived of a relationship with their father and will grow up and go through life without a father. These boys have also been robbed of their childhoods as they were forced to confront and try to understand the heinous and unthinkable crime of murder at such a young age. My life as a grandmother was yanked from me. My relationship with my grandsons has been put in serious jeopardy despite my requests and unrelenting efforts to maintain a relationship with them. I have been denied almost all contact with Lincoln and Ben for the past 5+ years. The situation has only added to the pain and suffering my family and I have gone through since the day of Dan's death. My daughter Shelley and her husband Ian have also been traumatized by Dan's tragic death and the simultaneous loss of any contact with their nephews. Dan's nieces and nephews, ranging from age 8 to 13, were forced to confront murder at a young age. Dan's older relatives could not comprehend this tragedy. My maternal 97-year-old uncle had a special bond with Dan and suffered greatly from Dan's murder. He gave up and died only 3 months after Dan was murdered. Of course, there are many more individuals not named here whose lives were devastated as a result of this crime. While still processing and reeling from the catastrophic effects of this devastating loss, my family and I nevertheless appreciate the importance of and made it a priority to respect and to fully cooperate with and provide any assistance we could to the law enforcement officers and the prosecutors handling this case. We patiently waited as this case wound its way through the criminal justice system. While no trial or verdict can ever heal the profound wounds caused by Dan's brutal murder, the time has finally come for the court to impose a sentence on and to bring a close to the case against Ms. McBanowa. Based on the seriousness of the crime, defendants' lack of cooperation throughout the case, and defendants' limited remorse, we believe that justice requires and that the court should therefore impose a significant sentence on Ms. McBanowa. Respectfully, Ruth Markel. That is what I have for today, guys. Please hit the thumbs up. Share this episode. Leave me a comment in the comment section. And I'll be back on Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night, everybody.